Hey, I'm singer-songwriter, producer Nick DiMatteo, and welcome to Season 8, Episode 28 of Music is Not a Genre, MxG. I'm going to write a jingle someday. I don't mean the theme song. I mean a jingle just for those MxG, which is NBC. I'll do something else. Thank you, as always, for watching and listening. This week's topic is Madonna, Who's That Icon? That's what we're going to be talking about. It's going to be a doozy. But yes, as always, thank you for watching and listening, and I'll save everything for the mid-roll except for, as always, like, share, subscribe, rate, review. Please tell one person about this podcast, just one person. And I would prefer, to be honest, that you tell them about youtube.com/@musicisnotagenre, because right now my audio game is flying. I'm very, very happy that all of you are listening out there in the world. But I need some love on the YouTube side of things. So please tell people youtube.com/@musicisnotagenre. They get to watch me say all of these things instead of just hear it and I add graphics in album covers and stuff like that. It's worth it. All right. As far as any music updates, I am working on getting ready to release a new single from the Nick retrospective album Valley of the Unreleased that will be coming out this fall or so. New single will be coming out very soon. And other than that, I have other updates, which I will get to later on. I'd rather just get to this topic. I'm pretty excited about it. And again, that topic is Madonna, Who's That Icon? I'm finally doing Madonna for 3 reasons. And before I say those reasons, let me say that I did actually do very, very early on in this podcast a Madonna episode that had to do with controversy, et cetera, things like that. And it was a live podcast, which I haven't done since then for many reasons, but it wasn't really a complete retrospective of Madonna. It wasn't a complete career look at who she is, what she's done, all that she's accomplished. This one is. So it's going to be a little longer, as some of my recent ones have been. But the 3 reasons I'm doing this: Confessions 2 just came out. Seems like perfect timing. Madonna is yet again in the spotlight. Number 2, she deserves far more than just this episode. Again, an entire podcast could be devoted to her, the way they would have been for some of the people I've mentioned recently. And 3, I honestly loved her music for at least a decade. And after that, intermittently, and I've learned to love it even more through doing research for this episode. So it's just very exciting. I'm very excited about all of it. And of course, the subtitle is a play on her hit, Who's That Girl, from the movie. And also a reference to the fact that she is the female counterpart to Bowie in many ways because of her constant reinvention and musical shifting. So who's that icon? Asks the question, who is she really in terms of the public spotlight? As you know, I don't spend much time focusing on the personal stuff. I'm really talking about the public spotlight. And of course, icon, because she is an icon. She is absolutely one of the few living icons right now. So show format, I'm going to go into her history, her primary discography, or as I like to call the chronology. Conclusions, including I'm ranking all 15 of her major albums from 15 to number 1, and you will disagree, and I'm excited to hear why. The featured song and questions, and of course the bonus, MxTRA, patreon.com/musicisnotagenre, is a history of music censorship, which I touched on when I did my band album art bonus episode, but this is a broader, it's more comprehensive. It gets into censorship of all kinds, including the history of it and what it is and all of that. Again, that's of course tied into the fact that there's been incidents of censorship in Madonna's career and controversy and things like that. And that's why I'm doing it here. And that is at patreon.com/musicisnotagenre. Sources: Google, Wikipedia, Billboard, YouTube, Evil Spotify, which, by the way, I'm looking to change from Spotify to something else. Any suggestions, hit me up in the comments. And then there's a bunch of other sources, which I will note at some point. Disclaimers, as usual, I won't be covering every release. I won't cover every compilation or all the live albums or the EPs, extended singles and remix singles and things like that. Just her primary albums and singles, as well as any release that included new material. I will be biased, generally speaking. I do have favorites and lesser favorites. And again, you'll probably disagree with some, agree with some. I, again, don't deal very much with non-music stuff. I will not be speaking at all about her marriages and divorces and things like that, or, plastic surgery and all the things people like to talk about instead of the music, instead of the art. I'm not really going to talk about her kids except as it relates to the music. Acting, again, only if it relates to the music. And of course, the big warning here, the big disclaimer is that this is going to be longer than an hour. So tuck in, as one of my favorite podcasters likes to say, because I'm going to get to it all. I toyed with breaking this in two, but man, I'm just too tired. It's getting to the end of the season and it's summer, and we want to do some fun things and stuff like that. So I am just going to knock this out all in one. One take, Willie, one episode, Willie. And with that, let's get to the meat of the matter here, the history of Madonna. Madonna Ciccone was born in 1958 in Michigan. So yes, like Prince and a handful of others, that is actually her real first name. Of course, if you don't know that by now, then hey, I'm afraid for you. Although if you didn't know that, then I just told you. By the way, so she's half Italian. Her mom was French Canadian. Her dad was not only Italian, but he was named Silvio Tony Ciccone. Can you get more Italian? So yes, like me, she is half Italian and a lapsed Catholic. She was, by all accounts, a great student and an incredible dancer, and also a self-defining rebel from the get-go. You talk about her reinventing herself, but this has been who she's been her entire life. She moved to New York City, in my hometown, in 1978, specifically to the East Village's Alphabet City. We were just there a couple of weeks ago. We went as far as Avenue D, I think, which I haven't done in a really, really long time. It was fun. It's fitting and timely that her new album is about her time there and Lower East Side and all of that, because it reminds people that she was in that post-punk mix along with so many other iconic East Village bands. Credibility. She was not groomed or manufactured. She created herself piece by piece. She auditioned for music jobs and landed one as a backup singer and dancer for Patrick Hernandez, who had the big hit, "And he was born to be alive, born to be alive." Oh, that is the wrong key. That's way too low. Just whatever. I always do things in the wrong key, but that is a favorite of mine. I used to spin that when I was a DJ, and it's cool that she worked with him. And after touring internationally with him, she returned to NYC to live in Queens, where I live, but specifically Corona, which is further east, living with her boyfriend and his brother, and eventually joining their band. The band, Breakfast Club. As a singer, guitarist, and a drummer for a while, she does everything, before leaving to form the band Emmy, which was her nickname at the time, also known as Emmy and the Emmys, when she was living and rehearsing in Manhattan in the Music Building on 8th Avenue, where I have rehearsed hundreds of times since the mid to late 1990s, and we'll be rehearsing there again. I want to say it's going to be in September. So I'm very familiar with that building. It's an iconic music rehearsal building in Manhattan. It's 8th Avenue, and I believe between 38th and 39th. I always forget because I just walked there. This whole period of her career lasted until 1981. Side note, by the way, Breakfast Club's only big hit was 1987's number 7, "Get You Up and Back, Right on Track, Not Gonna Get You Back." I loved that song, and at the time would have had no idea that Madonna was associated with the band. And I loved it because it was dance, pop, rock mixed together, something I really enjoy. Side note number 2, Emmy was raw, post-punk, pop rock, far more central to the story than you might think. And I will be talking more about this during the chronology. Though I am not going much into her acting career, again, outside of where it applies to the music, it's important to note that she was acting from the very beginning, starting in 1979, as a matter of fact. After leaving Emmy to go solo, she was signed by Gotham Productions in 1981, which, by the way, if you are looking this up on Wiki, it is not the Gotham Records that is linked on the Wiki page. That one was from decades earlier and was in Philadelphia. This is Gotham Productions, so there was a mistake there. One of the few mistakes on Wiki. I happen to think Wiki has a lot of integrity. This Gotham Productions also operated out of the Music Building. That's where they met. That relationship, though, ended in about a year or so. She spent 1982 visiting nightclubs to persuade DJs to play her demo, and her boyfriend helped her get signed to Sire Records. I mean, it was her initiative, but he helped. More on the singles released on Sire later in the chronology. Her debut album came out in 1983, and she released 3 more equally seminal albums in the 1980s. Her rise was fairly rapid and steady through that period and into the early 90s. She was in a bunch of films through here as well, famously, such as Desperately Seeking Susan, Shanghai Surprise, Who's That Girl, and in the early 90s, Dick Tracy and A League of Their Own, and of course continued with things like Evita and beyond that. She acted fairly consistently through the early 2000s. Some of these films will pop up again in the chronology because they have some seminal music from her career. Her rise was curtailed to a degree because of the backlash to erotica and the book Sex, which, by the way, bonus MxTRA on music censorship. That was a part of it for sure. At patreon.com/musicisnotagenre. She shifted gears in the 90s, and though don't call it a comeback, Ray of Light was kind of a comeback, one that she continued off and on in the 2000s with Music and Confessions on a Dance Floor. She continued to release music fairly consistently, never going more than a few years between singles or albums. Overall, she's released 15 studio albums, not counting one I will mention soon, 3 soundtracks, a bunch of other albums. As I mentioned, I'm not going to really talk about many of them. I will talk about a few. And almost 100 official singles, though far more if you count promotional singles and other songs. Most of those singles were released in the United States, though not all of them. Across the world, she has had well over 40 number one songs. I believe it's 50 because I think she released something, a release, which I'll talk about later, that said 50 number ones. But we'll qualify that in a second. There were 12 number ones in the United States and 13 in the UK. She has had a record 50 number one U.S. dance hits, club or dance, depending on the era in which you're talking about the charts. Over like 50. That's insane. That's insane. So I will be mentioning that in the chronology. I don't usually mention all the other charts that artists' singles and albums chart on, but because that's so significant to her career, I'll be mentioning it. 38 of her songs hit the top 10 in the US and 49 hit the top 40. She's often cited as the most successful singles artist of all time, and these stats would support that, though don't quote me. She is often also called the Queen of Pop, and I mean, I agree. Even though there have been so many others, or I don't know, a handful of others who've come after her, such as Beyonce and Taylor Swift, who have dominated. I think Madonna still it's unsurpassable, probably just because of the nature of music sales and the business and stuff like that. If you'd like to hear more about her many famous relationships and her children or her plastic surgery, you should just tune out now because I'm not going to be talking about any of that. As I mentioned, I will sum up major aspects of her career and other things in the conclusions, including my favorite Madonna albums, which of course I'm ranking all 15 of her major albums. But that's all I'm doing history-wise because, one, she is fucking Madonna, and do you really need me to tell you who she is? If you don't know, you know enough, and if you don't know enough, then you can look it up. That's not what this is about, but I did want to give you a flavor of where she's come from. And number 2, I'm not doing any more in the history because I want to get to the music. That's the meatier meat of the matter. And here we are. So, the Madonna chronology. And if you don't know that word, it's because I made it up years ago, which just means I listen to the primary discography in chronological order. So it's the chronology. Keep in mind before we start that there are a lot of albums and singles here, so I'm not going to dwell too long on any one of those. Similar to my recent Podfast where I did 30-some reviews, it's going to be a hit it and quit it situation. I'll dwell a little more because it's the Madonna episode, so I'm not going to gloss over things, but I'm not going to go deeply into any specific album or song. It's a survey, as I like to do. That's kind of my specialty. As usual, I'm only mentioning the following. I've said this before, but I think it's important to repeat: primary albums, other albums that contained singles not found elsewhere, such as compilations, soundtracks, other people's albums, and standalone singles, non-album singles. But I'm going to cheat a bit, starting at the beginning of this chronology in 1980. And that's because what I'm mentioning here is not an actual album. It is a bootleg, basically. Emmy and the Emmys Live from 1980. It's a bootleg of a live show at the Lower East Side's Chase Park Club, which no longer exists. I forget what's there now. I looked up the address. It's fun to look up addresses of things in New York City that were iconic, and, you know, like CBGB's was a clothing store, and I don't know what it is now, you know, whatever. And really, I'm covering that whole period in which they recorded 15 to 20 tracks mixed of studio demos, rehearsals, and live performances. So that's why this isn't an album. These were bootlegs from that. And I'm covering this for three reasons. One, you'd be amazed how much she already sounds like the Madonna we know, which she had been singing for a while since then, but to be that fully formed vocally is pretty incredible. Number two, the music shows why her early pop had such energy, because it's post-punk and yet still very poppy, and reminds us she played a big part in creating and shaping her own music and wasn't just a mouthpiece for producers and managers, and she, again, was a big part of that post-punk scene down there. At least the second phase of it. Number three, this era has an early version of Burning Up, which is one of my favorite songs, which really sheds light on the origin and the energy of that song and how much better she got at crafting melody and editing her songs. I would love for you to listen to the Emmy and the Emmys version of Burning Up and compare it to the one that was, you know, released on her first album and see the differences. I would love to have heard this music properly recorded. Frankly, it's the kind of post-punk I really like. It reminds me of that pre-Tears for Fears album when they were the band Graduate, kind of mixed with Blondie. And that's a great sound. Referencing the 10 or so tracks that I heard, I liked the songs, in particular, Best Girl, Simon Says, which is a kind of a ska or rock steady, No Time for Love, and, of course, the original version of Burning Up. Which brings us to her first proper album, and that is self-titled Madonna, 1983. It hit number 8 in the U.S. Jelly Bean Benitez and others helped produce it. And by the way, I may not mention this again, and I may, Madonna has co-produced every single one of her albums. So I think that is something I'll mention more in the conclusions about why that's so important. Had Madonna kept this sound in the first album and evolved with it, I would have been totally happy. You know, even this is the kind of sound that I enjoyed then, and I still enjoy that kind of electro pop with a punk energy, new wave. Even though this wasn't the smash the next album would be, these songs and the sound are killer, and they did put her on the map. She sounds great. So does the production. You can feel the post-punk vibe, even if you can't always hear it. And the new wave overlay of synths and such is just, I love it. It's great. I would compare it to Prince's Controversy in terms of development. This is noted, Madonna, the album, as one of the greatest debut albums ever, and for good reason. And let's not forget, she wrote almost all these songs herself. Again, prime mover. We'll talk about that more in the conclusions. So the tracks here, the original track listing, not with the bonuses and things like that, are Lucky Star, which was the 4th single. It hit number 4 on U.S. Main and number 1 U.S. Club. Borderline was the 5th single. Hit number 10 U.S. Main, number 4 U.S. Club. Burning Up, 2nd single, number 3 U.S. Club. I don't think it was released as an official single or it didn't chart. Anyway, what a 1, 2, 3 punch at the beginning. The song I Know It. And then side 2 was Holiday, one of my favorites, was the 3rd single, number 16 U.S. Main. And this was her first number 1 U.S. Club hit, Holiday. And then Think of Me. Physical Attraction was a double 2nd single, also number 3 U.S. Club. And Everybody, come on, dance and sing. First single, released in 1982, and was what got her the album deal. And it was number 3 U.S. Club hit. And man, I loved that song. That was probably my first love of hers. The first thing I heard, I would imagine, since it was her first single. Honestly, the only song that I don't love from this album is I Know It. And all the others are absolutely great. Even the ones you don't know. Think of Me and lesser known Physical Attraction. Which brings us to her first '1 album, 1984's Like a Virgin, co-produced by Nile Rodgers. It seems like Nile Rodgers was like, all right, you're doing something early 80s. I'm going to get in with you. I'm going to produce you, and kept doing that. And he still does that throughout his career and then moves on. And sometimes comes back like he did with Duran Duran off and on. This is the one that catapulted her in a year of stellar music. I've talked about 84. I won't go into it, but look it up. It's a nice evolution from the first album that still keeps the new wave feel and sound. You can hear her already expanding, more ballads and such, really shooting for pop stardom. The songs were mostly written by her and Stephen Bray. The singles are the strongest of anyone ever, meaning the songs here on the album that were released as singles were as strong as anybody's singles that you could possibly name. The album, I don't think, is as consistently strong as the first album and is not as strong as the singles themselves, but it's a damn good album. Track 1, Material Girl's second single, number 2 US main, number 1 club hit again. 2, Ooh, You're an Angel. I don't know, that song's been stuck in my head for several days. There's a third single, number 5 US, number 1 club, Like a Virgin. First single, first US number 1 main. It was her first number 1 hit on the main charts, and it was another number 1 US club. Over and over, Love Don't Live Here Anymore. And side 2, Gonna Dress You Up for My Love. Fourth single, number 5 US and number 3 club. Shooby-Doo, Pretender, and Stay. I love all the singles, especially Love, Material Girl, though Like a Version and Dress You Up are, pretty close to that as well. Can't say I was in love with any of the other album tracks. Non-album singles in the following year, 1985. Crazy For You was not on an album, not on her album. It hit number 1. It was the next number 1, US, from Vision Quest soundtrack. One of my all-time favorites. I think this was her first truly successful ballad, which of course number 1, but it just overshadowed every ballad that came before and many that came after. And another single from that year, Get Into the Groove, was a number 1 US club hit. I don't know if it was released as an official single. From Desperately Seeking Susan. And this is another super favorite. I did a live version of this in that live episode that I did years ago. Also released Gambler from Vision Quest. Didn't chart in the US. I kind of like it because it's her really rocking out and she does it well. She has rock credibility. Her next album was True Blue in 1986. Another number 1 album. Like the singles above, was produced by Madonna and Stephen Bray and Patrick Leonard. Most of the songs were by them as well. It's very mid-'80s production, which isn't the worst. Not the best, not the worst, but mostly very tastefully done. It is the first album I'll put it this way. If the first album put her on the map and her second album made her a star, True Blue made her a superstar. As an album, I would say it's much stronger than Like a Virgin and is close to being as good as her first one. Even the non-single tracks are strong. Though I also recall at the time I didn't love this album because sometimes you don't understand where an artist is going and it takes an album or two for you to realize that the changes they're making are actually pretty damn great. But to be honest, when you listen to the singles here, number 1, Papa Don't Preach, second single, number 1 US, number 4 club, number 2, Open Your Heart, one of my favorites, fourth single, number 1 US and club charts, 3, White Heat, number 4, Live to Tell, another great ballad, first single, number 1 US, first single from this album, 5, Where's the Party, 6, True Blue, third single, number 3 US, number 6 club, 7, La Isla Bonita, fifth single, number 4 US, and it's one of her currently most popular streaming songs. 8, Jimmy Jimmy, 9, Love Makes the World Go Round. Honestly, I like all of these, except for the last song I don't love, but I love all the singles, with my favorite being Hope in Your Heart, True Blue, Papa Don't Preach, and then La Isla Bonita, in that order. Next, Who's That Girl? 1987, hit number 7. It's the soundtrack to the movie. Lots of producers, as is usually the case with the soundtrack, and lots of writers too, but always Madonna in the mix. It's a nice production and nice sound overall. There were other performers, of course, because it's a soundtrack like Club Nouveau and Scritti Politti and a few others. Overall, I would not call this her strongest performances, but there's some great songs on here. Like track 1, Who's That Girl? It's first single, number 1, US, number 44 club. Number 2, Causing a Commotion, underrated. You got to go back and hear that again. It was the second single, number 2 US, number 1 club. Look of Love, third single, did not chart in the US. You have a bunch of songs by other people. And then you have one more by Madonna, Can't Stop. And of course, I love Who's That Girl's a great song, actually, and Causing a Commotion, also great. You Can Dance, not an official, main release of hers, 1987, hit number 14 US. Why am I mentioning it? Because, well, I'll tell you in a sec. It was her first remix album, which is super important for a dance star like her, who's, constantly in the clubs, even to this day. It suffers from late 80s production in the sense that the remixes are a typical extended dance versions that don't add much, if anything, to the musical conversation. They're fine. And, you put them on, people are going to dance to them, but they don't blow you away. Spotlight was the single from here. It didn't chart. All right. And then we get to her final 80s album, Like a Prayer. Sheesh, 1989. Also hit number 1. Same producers as True Blue, and Prince was on a couple of songs. What needs to be said? She went then, if you say, put her on the map, star, superstar, this made her a legend. It's as strong as the previous album, I think, probably stronger, and certainly better production, because late 80s was making some corrections, the very late 80s, that the mid to late were the mistakes they were making were going overblown. This is considered the last of her classic albums, depending on how you count them. Number 1, Like a Prayer was the first single, number 1 US and club. Number 2, Express Yourself, second single, number 2 US, number 1 club. 3, Love Song with Prince was the first non-single track of hers that I really, 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 really love. It was neither of their best songs. Prince and Madonna have done better songs alone, but it is far better than you think it would be with two stars coming together like this. Crazy thing, I don't remember this song at all. Prince is one of my favorites. I should know everything about him. Didn't know he worked with Madonna until I went back and listened to this. Number 4, Till Death Do Us Part. 5, Promise to Try. 6, Cherish. Third single, number 2 US. Number 7, Dear Jessie. Fifth single, did not chart in the US. Don't know if it was released here. Number 8, Oh Father. Fourth single, number 20. Number 9, Keep It Together was a sixth single, hit number 8 US, number 1 club. 10, Spanish Eyes. 11, Act of Contrition. Prince on guitar, I assume. This really rocks, this song, and it's very funky. I generally like the whole album, with my favorites being Express Yourself. In order here, Express Yourself, Cherish, Like a Prayer, Love Song, Act of Contrition, Oh Father, Till Death Do Us Part. We get to another non-primary album, I'm Breathless, 1990. It was the soundtrack to the movie Dick Tracy, which she was also inspired by Dick Tracy as well. In other words, songs that weren't in the movie but were inspired by the movie. It's a very common thing. At number 2 in the US. Same producers with some others added, and Sondheim wrote 3 of the songs. It's a typically mixed bag for a soundtrack, though a very nice expansion of her sound and songwriting skills, and her vocals are really, really strong. Going for the period sound, mostly, period that Dick Tracy was set in, and it mostly works. Number 1, He's a Man. Number 2, Sooner or Later, Stephen Sondheim, nice song. Number 3, Hanky Panky, which is the second single from this. Number 10, US. Number 4, I'm Going Bananas, kind of a fun Carmen Miranda Charo kind of thing. Number 5, Crybaby. Number 6, Something to Remember. Number 7, Back in Business. Number 8, More is also a Sondheim song. Number 9, another Sondheim song, What Can You Lose? A duet with Mandy Patinkin, and it is just absolutely beautiful. Number 10, Now I'm Following You, Part 1 with Warren Beatty. Number 11, Now I'm Following You, Part 2 with Warren Beatty, which is a cool remix thing, and sounds like it could have been on the Batman soundtrack. It's far better remix than anything on You Can Dance as far as I'm concerned. And number 12, what is it? Vogue. First single, number 1 US and club. No need to say anything else about this iconic song. I liked more of it than I thought I would, honestly. I hadn't heard this whole soundtrack, but I really enjoyed it. And I did see the film, so I must have heard a lot of the songs. Then, same year, the Immaculate Collection. It's a very famous greatest hits. Their first greatest hits album, 1990, and one of the best of anyone's greatest hits albums. It hit number 2 in the US and includes 2 new singles. That's why I'm talking about it. Justify My Love, which was #1 US in club, co-written and produced by Lenny Kravitz when he was really young, and it's incredible. Love it. Go listen to it. It's kind of a Seal or Terrence Trent D'Arby feel. D'Arby, whatever. Rescue Me was the second single, #9 US, #6 club. Very good dance song, following in Vogue's footsteps and a worthy follow-up. There was a non-album single a couple of years later in 1992. This Used to Be My Playground. It's a great song, to be honest. It hit #1. It's from the movie A League of Their Own, which she was also in. That same year, of course, she released Erotica, which hit #2 in the US. By the way, haven't mentioned, Shep Pettibone and Andre Betts have been involved with her production for a while up to this point. So just keep that in mind, including this album. This was released at the same time as the book Sex, which my bandmate in Ape Cafe, Pete, his mom, bought it and shared it with us. Very cool mom, and it's a cool book. Very great artistry, great photography. Of course, super controversial at the time, which, by the way, bonus MxTRA. Patreon.com/music is not a genre. I talk about music censorship. I think this album is her first artiste statement, which should in no way diminish the artistry of anything that came before or anything that came after. And this kind of foretells her late 90s and early 2000s work. In a way, you've got that blip in the mid-90s where she went off for reasons I'll talk about soon. But then she kind of comes back to a lot of this vibe in a more developed way in the late 90s and 2000s. Despite people thinking she wasn't bulletproof anymore because this album didn't do as well as her masterpieces, it is a really damn good album, and I love the production. Very early on Vogue sound and kind of brings together all the styles she'd done up to this point, though it's also kind of put to bed finally that that early 80s energy really is a shift that like, let's get rid of those remnants, basically. I honestly think it's at least as strong as her 80s work, and I'd say stronger than a couple of those albums. #1, Erotica, for first single. #3, US, #1 club. Samples Jungle Boogie. #2, Fever, fourth single, hit #1 club. It was a cover, of course, in the song Fever. Never know how much I love it. It's fine. It's not stellar, but it's actually pretty decent, and I like that it sounds different than the original. #3, Bye Bye Baby, sixth single, didn't chart in the US. 4, Deeper and Deeper was the second single, hit #7 US, #1 club. I did not remember that song. 5, Where Life Begins. 6, Bad Girl, third single, #36 US. 7, Waiting. #8, Thief of Hearts. #9, Words. #10, Rain, which was the fifth single, hit #14 US. #11, Why It's So Hard. Why Is It So Hard? #12, In This Life. #13, Did You Do It? #14, Secret Garden, which has a great acid jazz feel. Man, I love that. I find this more enjoyable to listen through and through than some of her 80s work, frankly, even if the songs on the whole don't always knock you out. Again, albums are a different art form than songs, and this is a great album. My favorites are Erotica, Bye Bye Baby, Where Life Begins, Bad Girl, Waiting, Words, and Secret Garden. A couple years later, non-album single in 1994, I'll Remember, from With Honors, the movie With Honors. #2, US. It's a very good song, actually. Very, very good song. That same year, she did yet another reinvention with the album Bedtime Stories, hit #3 in the US. Shifted production team, again, Babyface is included here. Softer image she was going for. I think partly because she's someone who's restless and wants to change and explore new ways of expression. And it was partly a career move because, she felt like Erotica maybe didn't hit the way she had wanted it to. And maybe she had kind of run the course with that, type of approach. I love the production here. I had not heard this album before because I was not interested in it at the time. It's not as much of a departure from Erotica sound-wise as it seemed. And some really nice sonic changes. It's tight, yet it's expansive. It's kind of like a move into the TLC realm. Definitely leaning into R&B. I think it's the biggest change here. If I'm Breathless was her sound expansion and Erotica her statement piece, this one showed she could pivot to something very different and return just as strong. Change with the times, but still be herself, something she does continue to do, frankly. I think it's honestly a bit sleepy and a bit draggy, but you can't deny how well it's done. It's just not a fave of mine. Number 1, Survival is a strong opener. Number 2, Secret, first single. Number 3, US number 1 club. Number 3, I'd Rather Be Your Lover with Michelle and Degocello, one of my faves at the time. Number 4, Don't Stop. Number 5, Inside of Me. Number 6, Human Nature, not the song from Michael Jackson. 4th single, number 46, US number 2 club. 7, Forbidden Love. 8, Love Tried to Welcome Me. 9, Sanctuary. 10, title track, Bedtime Story. 3rd single, number 42, US number 1 club. Smoky House, goodness, is a good song. Number 11, Take a Bow. 2nd single, number 1 US. Honestly, again, it's not a home run album for me, but it is a nice mellow listen all the way through. And I do like the songs Survival, Secret, Human Nature, Bedtime Story, and my favorite here is probably Take a Bow. And then another non-major release, Something to Remember, in 1995. It was number 6 US. David Foster and Nelly Hooper co-produced along with Madonna and others. Compilation of songs specially selected by her to showcase her musical talent and get away from the controversy and the hype. There were only 3 new songs, and otherwise actually a very nice selection. I like that she went left field with her selections. They're very artist personal selections, which I've done. RECcollection is the album you would want to look up for that. They weren't singles, not all of them, but they were songs that I particularly love from my catalog. This is all like Bedtime Stories. Not really aging, and I say that because she wasn't old at the time. Maybe she felt like she was getting older, but this is kind of like, again, that aging artist's push to be serious. So of course the songs need to be intimate. But that said, her vocals are great, the production is great, and the new songs are actually good. Similar in feel to Bedtime Stories, but less R&B, more of a mix of electronic, acoustic, and kind of Latin things she would carry into her next albums. Number 1, I Want You with Massive Attack. It's a new song. It's a cover of a Marvin Gaye tune, and I like this. Number 4, You'll See, which was the first single. Number 6, Maine. I do sort of remember this song. Track 8 was Love Don't Live Here Anymore remix. It's the 3rd single, number 78 US, number 16 club. Track 11 was One More Chance, 2nd single, did not chart in the US. Number 14 was I Want You orchestral with Massive Attack, and I mentioned only those because the others were the selections from her previous catalog. Following year, 1996, Evita, number 2 in the US. Of course, it's the soundtrack to the movie. I never saw the musical in any form, but I was aware of many of these songs during the Patti LuPone years and did generally like them, even though I'm not a huge fan of Andrew Lloyd Webber. She did a very respectable job. Great vocals, to be honest, on this album. 3 singles were released, including one not in the stage production, kind of like the way Grease added You're the One That I Want, which was not in stage production originally. You Must Love Me is number 18 US main. I remember that. Don't Cry For Me Argentina, number 8 US, number 1 club. I like this song. My friends used to sing to me and parody me and the song and saying, "Don't cry for me, Sergeant Big Boy." And I was called Big Boy because I looked like Bob's Big Boy at the time in my middle school years. Another Suitcase in Another Hall didn't chart, but it's also a very good song. All right, now we get to the so-called comeback, 1998's Ray of Light. Hit number 2 in the U.S. and another shift. William Orbit came on the board along with some other producers. Let's review some phases, do this album, and then take a break. I think that's what we'll do. Rather than break them down too much, I will say that her first 3 albums were one phase, Like a Prayer and Erotica, and the stuff in between were another kind of era, reinvention. Bedtime Stories and Something to Remember and Evita were another kind of phase and reinvention and searching. And this was considered yet another big reinvention, Ray of Light, and what was seen as an unlikely return to major success and relevance in a way that would, in my mind, make her Bowie's true successor. More than anyone else, maybe. Few, if any, artists have been able to come back as many times as she has, and each time upping the stakes artistically. Absolutely love the production, and more playful than I'd say all of her previous 90s work. It brings back at least some of that early mid-80s energy, which is ironic because this is also her serious album, turning to Kabbalah and things like that. Very late 90s EDM in a good way. William Orbit, of course, but also a pinch sound-wise of Fatboy Slim and even Moby. Very of its time, but in a good way. The songs. Number 1, Drowned World, Substitute for Love, third single, not released in the U.S. Number 2, Swim. Number 3, Ray of Light, second single. Number 5, U.S. number 1 club, Worth the Praise. Number 4, Candy Perfume Girl. Number 5, Skin, the haunting companion to Ray of Light. Number 6, Nothing Really Matters, sixth single, number 93, U.S. number 1 club. Number 7, Sky Fits Heaven, which she would remix later on. Number 8, Shanti Ashtangi. Number 9, Frozen, first single, number 2, U.S. number 1 club. I remember this song very well, too. It's a great freaking song. Number 10, The Power of Goodbye, fourth single, number 11, Main. Number 11, To Have and Not to Hold. Number 12, Little Star, fifth single, only in the UK or as a double A-side of Power of Goodbye. It was the birth of her daughter, whom she's now duetting with. And I remember this song. Number 13, Mergirl. Good song. Great album to listen through. Lots to like. My faves are Swim, Ray of Light, Skin. Frozen is probably my favorite. Little Star and Mergirl, just because it's weird enough and really works. We'll do one more. Non-album singles, 1999 and 2000. Beautiful Stranger from the Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me movie, number 19, U.S. number 1 club. Great mix of retro and modern. It predicts Amy Winehouse, I think. Really like this one. Cover of the song American Pie for the movie The Next Big Thing hit number 29, U.S. number 1 club. I have not been a fan of American Pie since I was a child. I liked it then and then never really liked it much after. And to slow it down like this seems cruel. Although that said, the production is very nice and it does work. And so do I, man. What a first half. I told you it would be a longer episode yet again. Stay tuned as we get into the 2000s proper here after this break. Hey, MxG fans, thank you as always for watching and listening. Listeners, go to youtube.com/@musicisnotagenre. You get a video for every episode of this podcast. Watchers, go to nickdimatteo.com/musicisnotagenre if you would rather just listen. And everyone, please take some time out to go to patreon.com/musicisnotagenre to support this podcast, my band Rec, and everything I do for as little as $1 a month. Speaking of everything I do, nickdimatteo.com really does have it all. If you're interested in unique and quirky t-shirts that I've all personally hand designed, go to nickdimatteo.com/shop and you can find it all there, including discounts if you sign up for my newsletter or Patreon. If you're someone who's always wanted to write a song, has just never figured out how to get there, let me work with you. I am the Song Coach. Go to nickdimatteo.com/thesongcoach, and whether you're a complete beginner or completely advanced, I can get you there. You can book a free 30-minute call right there on the site. And of course, I am always releasing new music. Go to nickdimatteo.com/music to find it all. My complete discography is there. All of the social links are there. And of course, please like, share, subscribe, rate, review. Do it for the podcast. Do it for the music. Sharing is especially valuable to all of us indie creators. I really appreciate your support, your eyes and ears. Thank you for hanging with me for this mid-roll, and let's get back to the show. All right, we are back, and I'm not going to waste any time. Let's get into it. When we're talking stellar albums, we're going to be talking 2000s music. Number 1 in the U.S. Let's point out, by the way, that her smash albums were smashes across the world. As if you didn't know that. But, not every artist translates to every country, and many artists do better overseas. She's done amazing everywhere. William Orbit again, and a bunch of other producers. It's a continuation of the sound and themes on Ray of Light, but I would say better. I think it's more developed. The production and energy are more wide-ranging. Even most of the ballad songs and the less prominent album tracks have something interesting sonically. An even more balanced mix of mystical and whimsical. I don't think overly, like too serious. Number 1, music, first single, number 1 US and club, and almost everywhere else in the world. I do vaguely remember this as a single, but not as present in my mind as some of the previous ones. This was when I was really, she was had been phasing out of my consciousness from like the early mid-90s on. 2, Impressive Instant. 3, Runaway Lover. 4, I Deserve It. 5, Amazing. Nice. Influenced by Beautiful Stranger, I think, in terms of production. Number 6, Nobody's Perfect. 7, Don't Tell Me. Second single, number 4, U.S., number 1 club. 8, What It Feels Like for a Girl. Third single, number 23, U.S., number 1 club. Are you counting the number 1 club's hits? Whatever, because I have lost count. Number 9, Paradise, Not For Me. Number 10, Gone. Another album you can listen all the way through and love it. My faves are for sure Music, Amazing, Don't Tell Me, with Impressive Instant and What It Feels Like for a Girl, also very strong for me. She released then in 2001 GHV2, Greatest Hits Volume 2, no new songs. A sort of non-album single, 2002's Die Another Day. To me, one of the better Bond themes. It does not get mired in the serious spy music trope, but some of my favorite artists have done Bond themes that I just didn't like that much because they got too serious. They didn't understand that there's a playfulness underneath, which I think she did. It's electroclash dance pop and clearly influenced by other pop stars of the day like Britney and Christina, and done just as well, if not better. And I said this is a sort of a non-album single because it was then included, because it did so well, on the next album, American Life, 2003, which was number 1. Worked with Mirwais Ahmadzai and others. Not well received because she was challenging her listeners by not repeating the successes of the last 2 albums, and they were so huge that people just wanted more of that, understandably. More aggressive and brash production, glitchy and electro in awesome ways, but also pulling in some of the more recent music sounds, including house and acoustic. What a mix. Considered more personal, so of course critics would trash it. Stop talking about yourself. Though she was leading the way of pop stars writing about themselves in pop songs in ways that had been done intermittently before, but then kind of blew up 5, 10, 15 years later. To me, even the non-singles work. I think overall this is an excellent infusion of forward energy from pretty much all of her last decade of music. I just love the production of American Life all around. Number 1, American Life, second single if you count Die Another Day as the first one. Number 37, US, number 1 club. Hollywood, third single, number 1 club hit. 3, I'm So Stupid. 4, Love Profusion was a number 1 club hit. Did remixes of that too. Number 5, did remixes of a lot of these, just because I haven't mentioned that, but she has. Number 5, Nobody Knows Me. Number 6, Nothing Fails. 4th single, number 1, Club. 7, Intervention. Number 8, Ecstatic Process. 9, Mother and Father. 10, Die Another Day, we talked about. Number 11, Easy Ride. This deserves another listen. By the way, in my conclusions, when I rank my albums, you see where this ranks. Probably not where other critics and ranky people put it online. The first 7 songs of this album absolutely kick, as do the last 2 songs, Die Another Day and Easy Ride. Then, same year, Remixed and Revisited. It's her second remix album. I'm mentioning it because I love the American Life remix on here. It is legit hard rock. And Into the Hollywood Groove mashup with Missy Elliott is also great. And I think overall this is a better remix album than her first one. And it foretells the Missy Elliott, in particular, her future of collaborating with hot artists. She had done it before, but really started to do a lot in this period. Non-album single same year, Me Against the Music, number 35 US number 1 club. It is her duet with Britney on Britney's album. Not my favorite song, but a damn good song. Again, similar to the one she did with Prince, it's not either one's strongest, but better than it could and should have been by any right, because you have 2 very powerful stars together doing something, but it works. And then, of course, 2005's Confessions on a Dance Floor. Number 1, everywhere. Mirwais Ahmadzai again, but then pivoted to Stuart Price because she thought the sound needed a refresh. She's done that her entire career, and I applaud her for it because the sound should be the artist's sound, not the producer's sound. And that's a big problem I have with a lot of modern day production and I've mentioned that before. I won't go into it now. This album was yet another supposed comeback and really another proof that she cannot be denied. It was an even bigger leap back into the zeitgeist than Ray of Light and Music, from what I remember. Great update of the sound. It brings in some of that American Life brashness and personal nature, but continues along the lines of the dancey stuff from Ray of Light and Music. To me, this proves that critics were wrong about American Life. They just weren't ready for it. It also brings in a lot of the previous, I sort of mentioned that, and retro 70s and 80s sounds. It does not let up and somehow tops almost everything she'd done to this point. I love this production. Not every song hits for me as a song, but production-wise, all of them hit. Number 1, Hung Up, first single. Number 7, US number 1 club. Samples ABBA's Gimme 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 and does it well. Number 2, Get Together, third single, number 1 club. 3, Sorry, second single, number 58, US number 1 club. Future Lovers. 5, I Love New York, electro indie rock. I don't love the lyrics, but the music freaking kills. 6, Let It Will Be. Tongue twister there. 7, Forbidden Love. 8, Jump, fourth single, number 1 club. 9, How High. 10, Isaac. 11, Push. 12, Like It or Not. I particularly like Hung Up, Get Together, Sorry, I Love New York, as stated, Let It Will Be, and How High. Those were really my favorites from this album. She then released 2 live albums in 2006 and 2007. And in 2007, a non-album single, Hey You. It's a charity song co-produced by Pharrell. Typically important and supportive lyrics. It is not the worst charity song ever, but it is a charity song, and you can hear it. Hard Candy was her next proper album in 2008, was number 1 everywhere. New producers yet again, including Timbaland, the Neptunes, and Justin Timberlake. It was not as big a hit as Confessions, and again, she's moving forward and in ways that might not have pleased some of her fans. I liken it to Bedtime Stories in that she's leaning into the R&B of the day, but this time with more of an energetic dance feel, and still has some of that retro feel from Confessions as well. I like this production, and the fact that all these 2000s albums have such strong album tracks shows how much she's developed from the days when her singles were by far the strongest songs on any album, particularly in the 80s and some of the 90s. Number 1, Candy Shop, great opener. Number 2, 4 Minutes, featuring Justin Timberlake and Timbaland's first single. Number 3, US number 1 club. I don't think it's the greatest song, but you cannot stop listening to it. It sounds amazing. It keeps going. Number 3, Give It To Me, second single. Number 57, US number 1 club. Number 4, Heartbeat. Number 5, Miles Away, third single. Number 2, club hit. 6, She's Not Me. 7, Incredible. 8, Beat Goes On, featuring Kanye. 9, Dance Tonight. 10, Spanish Lesson. 11, Devil Wouldn't Recognize You. And 12, Voices. Some real bangers here. I like almost every song, frankly, but especially the first 2 tracks, which are Candy Shop, 4 Minutes, and Voices. Then, Celebration, 2009, her third greatest hits album, hit number 7 in the U.S. Depending on which version of this album, there are either 3 new songs or less, 2 released as singles. Celebration, number 71, US number 1 club. Good song, more rounded version of the previous album's sound, which is nice. Revolver, featuring Lil Wayne, number 4 club. Not bad, but not a fave. Other new song is It's So Cool, very late 2000s dance, and pretty damn good. Released a third live album in 2010. And then this is really from, what was this, 2009 12. This is her longest period of recording inactivity. I think it's slightly longer than some in the 90s. No singles or albums for 3 years. Of course, not counting the live album because there's nothing new on there. In 2012, she released MDNA, number 1. A lot of producers, which again was her choice. Fully into this era's EDM. I mean, the album name is the tip-off, right? It's partly MDNA Madonna, and it's Madonna's DNA, and it's also looks like MDMA, which is a rave thing, of course. More dance, but somehow not the same as the 2000 stuff. More evolution. She never sits. I happen to think this is a really fun album that still has weight. Personal lyrics mixed with tracks that move. Number 1, Girl Gone Wild, second single, number 1 club. 2, Gangbang. 3, I'm Addicted. 4, Turn Up the Radio, fourth single, number 1 US club. One of only a few songs that I added to this year's playlist. I never heard that song, and I love it. 5, Give Me All Your Lovin', featuring Nicki Minaj and MIA. First single, number 10 US, number 1 club. Great song. If her first 2 albums were released in the 2010s, this is what they would have sounded like. They would have sounded like Give Me All Your Lovin'. 6, Some Girls. 7, Superstar. Added this to my playlist as well. Very of its time in a very good way. 8, I Don't Give a, featuring Nicki Minaj again. 9, I'm a Sinner. 10, Love Spent. 11, Masterpiece. Third single, did not get a US release. 12, Falling Free. Of all her sound updates, I think this is my favorite. I like the first 9 songs big time. Big time. Then there were some box sets that came after that album. And then in 2015, she released Rebel Heart, number 2, US. Again, a ton of producers. I think, again, she was kind of searching for the new sound and her sound and exploring some things in these two albums. It's a companion to MDNA, I think. More soulful, but not very different. And that's not a bad thing. Again, she's kind of pushing shift forward, using her voice differently. It's a great evolution. I prefer MDNA, but there's good stuff on here. The previous album was like her updated Like a Virgin. This is like her Like a Prayer updated. It's a bit too over serious for me. Sounds great though. It's clear she was still moving forward in great ways. This is the first album of hers where I feel like she was trying too hard to stay current, which, considering it's over 30 years into her career, is still pretty amazing. And guess what? She doesn't stay there either. This feels like a redo of lots of previous stuff with the overwash of a modern approach. But again, I like how she explores. That's part of the artist's journey. Do it. Do it in public. Don't just hide that stuff. Put all your explorations out as an artist. 1, Living for Love, first single, #1 club. 2, Devil Pray. 3, Ghost Town, second single, #1 club. 4, Unapologetic Bitch. 5, Illuminati. 6, Bitch, I'm Madonna, featuring Nicki Minaj, third single, number 84 U.S. #1 club. 7, Hold Tight, fourth single, but not official U.S. release. 9, Joan of Arc. 8, Joan of Arc. 10, 9, Iconic, featuring Chance the Rapper and Mike Tyson. 10, Heartbreak City. 11, Body Shop, not the Sam Smith. 12, Holy Water. 13, Inside Out. 14, Wash All Over Me. My favorites would be Living for Love, Joan of Arc, Iconic, Holy Water, and Inside Out. This is one of her rare albums that actually has a stronger second half. And then another live album came. And then a few years later, this was her longest break now, I think, which was 2015 to 19, no new material. 2019, Madam X, #1 U.S. Latin-influenced sound and production and lyrical themes based on her time, exploring that. Though she's been interested in her whole career. I mean, if she had used Lies La Bonita as her next direction at that time, it would have yielded something like this. It predicted the blow-up of Spanish language music when reggaeton was starting to hit. A departure from her previous direction that I think was much needed and very welcome and very effective. It brings forward what she learned there. It's both a step back from pop and a move forward into new pop. Really, I think, a real jump forward lyrically. Lots of exploration, again, with both sound and her voice. Honestly, love her vocal work here. 2, Medellin with Maluma, first single, #1 club. Did I say 2? It was 1. 2, Dark Ballet. 3, God Control. 4, Future with Quavo. 5, Batuka. 6, Killers Who Are Partying. 7, Crave with Sway Lee, second single, #1 club. 8, Crazy. 9, Come Alive. 10, Faz Gostoso, featuring Anita. 11, Bitch I'm Loca, featuring Maluma, again. 12, I Don't Search, I Find, fourth single, number 30, Dance. That's what club is called now. 13, I Rise, third single, #1 club. And what I like here, I Don't Search, I Find. I like Come Alive. I like Crazy. I like Future. I like God Control. I like Medellin. Another live album came, and then a remix album with 50 #1s and a Deadpool-related EP. And her fourth remix album, Veronica Electronica, which was the name she gave herself when she was doing Ray of Light. Definitely worth a listen, by the way, that album. And then another EP, and in between those, she released 3 singles. A remix of Dua Lipa's Levitating, #6, Dance. Frozen, the Sickick remix, #10, Club. Break My Soul, the Queen's remix, didn't chart. Back That Up to the Beat, Demo, did not chart. Popular with The Weeknd and Playboi Carti at #43, Main. And Vulgar with Sam Smith, #11, Dance. And that all happened but sometime between like 2020 and last year, basically. And then this year, Confessions 2, 2026, #1 almost everywhere. Many producers, including Andrew Watt, who I mentioned in the last episode. It's the first album to me where at times her voice sounds a little older, but at the same time, she is achieving that youthful sound and her typical Madonna sound, which is wonderful, in ways that, McCartney has struggled to do, for example. And I mention that because Andrew Watt produced that album, part of that album too. Again, pretty amazing. She's 45 or more years into her career, and this is about what she's doing. Such great production. And I'll admit, after hearing the rest of her catalog and listening to this album now twice through, I have a much greater appreciation for it. It is well-rounded, well-grounded, and solidly done summary of her last 25 plus years of music. Honestly, here's the problem here. I say I like this, I don't like that, I like that. I didn't highlight any of these because I ended up liking almost every one of these songs. 1, I Feel So Free. 2, Good for the Soul. 3, One Step Away. 4, Bring Your Love with Sabrina Carpenter's first single, number 74, May, number 7, Dance. 5, Danceteria, third single, number 10, Dance, probably my favorite. 6, Read My Lips with Fade. 7, Everything. 8, Love Sensation, second single, not an official US. I love that song too. 9, Love Without Words. 10, Bizarre with Martin Garrix. 11, School. 12, Fragile. 13, My Sins Are My Savior featuring Stromae and a lot of French. 14, Betrayal. 15, The Test with her daughter, Lola Leon. 16, LES Girl or East Side Girl. These are the songs, like I said, I like almost all of them, but I really love Good for the Soul, Danceteria, Everything, School, Fragile, LES Girl. I reviewed this recently in the Podfast, so that's all I'm going to say about it, except for those songs may not correspond with the ones I said I liked before. And that's it for the chronology so far. She has released some other things since Confessions 2 that are not official singles, so I, of course, would recommend, as always, whatever your streaming service is, look it up, cross-check what I'm saying. There's more out there, which brings us to conclusions. How many performers have gotten, let's say, imperial names? King of Rock and Roll, Godfather of Soul, etc. Not many. She is the queen of pop, and rightly so. And here are some reasons why. Number 1, she created herself. Unlike many pop stars, she wasn't primarily the product of a label, producer, or Svengali manager. She drove the vision, chose the collaborators, knew when to move on, and the producers knew when to move on, and treated her career like both art and business. Yet she also, oddly, set the template for other female pop stars, which was used by artists, but more often was used by managers and labels to create for these artists persona and stuff and sounds like Britney and Christina, etc. Although they eventually took more control of their careers. 2, reinvention was part of the art. She didn't just reinvent her image, she reinvented the idea that a pop career should evolve. Everyone should take that cue. Before Madonna, longevity often meant consistency, with exceptions like Bowie being quite rare. After Madonna, reinvention became an expectation. For exceptional male stars such as Bowie and even the Beatles, reinvention was a vital part of what they did, not just for career longevity, but more for artistic expression. Some female stars dipped their toes into this, such as Diana Ross, but that was weighted more on the side of shifting to keep up with the times and not as much the artistic side, although there was artistry there. I'd argue Madonna was the first female pop star to embrace artistic reinvention, and the image shifting was an integral part of that. Despite her creating the template for female pop stars, few have taken up this side of things to the degree she has. Number 3, she made pop conceptual. Every album wasn't just new songs, it was a new aesthetic, philosophy, fashion language, visual identity, and cultural conversation. This ties in with the previous elements. She only ever repeated herself when she deliberately wanted to, and even then, she'd take care to add in new elements and update the sound and approach. Every artist should strive for this. I do. Number 4, she understood culture as well as music. Many artists, they get music for most of their careers, if not all. Some fade in terms of paying attention in music. Madonna also gets the culture, which I don't think every artist has to do, but she's damn did it. Still does. She recognized where society was heading and positioned herself just ahead of it. Yes, she was at the vanguard of pushing culture forward for, I'd say, at least the first decade of her career up to the early 90s, and then was kind of more about artistic morphing and exploration for a while up to the early 2000s, although she did continue to engage with the culture, like with American Life and things like that, and certainly more. Then she unexpectedly did both culture and artistry through maybe the mid-2010s, and then did the exploration with collaborations and new sounds and stuff, and proved she could continue to absorb and integrate new musical ideas and still be innately herself. Number 5, she treated controversy as medium, not marketing. Most artists get into controversies. Madonna incorporated controversy in the artwork itself, and encouraged it often, and sometimes that argument was part of the album. This relates to the previous point and kind of ties three things together. Number one, the music pushing boundaries and evolving. Two, the message also pushing boundaries and challenging society to think differently. And three, the marketing, using the nexus of those two things as a way to draw more attention. And of course, the controversy and the risk of censorship I'll talk about in the bonus MxTRA at patreon.com/music is not a genre. 6, she chose collaborators, not leaders. She worked with Nile Rodgers, Patrick Leonard, Stephen Bray, Shep Pettibone, Willie Moore, McMurray, Stuart Price, Timbaland, Pharrell, Diplo, and so many others, but did not allow them to control, more to, nudge and suggest and guide and add their flavor to what she already knew she wanted to do. None of them became the Madonna sound. They entered her universe. That's unusual to me, both historically and especially now. Aretha took that kind of control. Mariah has done it. Certainly Beyonce. I'd argue Olivia Rodrigo and Sabrina Carpenter and Chappell Rowan do it to a degree. And of course, this is not counting tons of indie musicians who also do it, because I'm focusing on the pop side of things here. So many pop artists, and these days, sadly, even indie artists, are being too shaped and predetermined by their producers, not bringing enough of their own determination to the mix. Come on, you're artists. Number 7, she made the female pop superstar the CEO. Before Madonna, women in pop were often expected to be performers first, and all. This is what she fought against through the 1980s. She insisted on being strategist, creative director, businesswoman, image architect, and performer simultaneously. That's probably her biggest influence on people like Beyonce, Lady Gaga, Taylor Swift, Rihanna, many others. Another great list of female pop and pop-adjacent stars who took cues from Madonna. Yeah, I'm sure there were some female artists who took greater control of the business side before Madonna, especially in the non-pop world, but none to the height and breadth she did. And now there are many who do, and it's thanks in large part to her. Trailblazing. 8, she stayed ahead of the curve far longer than most artists. Similar to Prince, she anticipated and or created trends and sounds far longer than most artists ever do. I'd argue she was able to do this even longer than Prince, helping to popularize EDM at the turn of the century and a good decade before it blew up. Of course, like for pretty much every artist, she eventually ran up alongside of the trends and continues to do it well and with the utmost artistic integrity. Number 9, she changed the job description, related to many of the others. Before her, a pop star made records, did the tours, had the persona, had to be one person and be that consistently. After Madonna, a pop star had more to do. The music, the visuals, the fashion, the controversy, the narrative, the identity, and the reinvention. She rewrote what the profession required. This ties in with the business mogul thing. Her approach to both art and business has always been holistic. And though not every artist after her had as comprehensive an approach, they had the option to if their ambition went that way, because Madonna showed it could be done. And number 10, maybe my favorite. She wasn't just a figurehead or singer. She was a writer, co-producer, and prime mover. I think it's the most important of all of these. We think of her as a pop star and the template for future stars like Britney, etc., because she did so well as that, and a dance star, and is a legend, but often forget that she wrote or co-wrote most of the songs, the vast majority, on all of her albums, and co-produced all of the albums. This means something. It means a lot. And while other artists have taken the reins in one or more of these ways, I'd argue that none have had the same degree of control and mastery of every aspect except for Beyonce. And then talking about female stars and most male stars, to be honest. Madonna's greatest achievement wasn't that she sold hundreds of millions of records. It wasn't even that she kept reinventing herself. It was that those reinventions were her idea, and she never wavered from that. She wasn't manufactured by the industry. She learned how the industry worked, then used it as her canvas. In doing so, she didn't just become one of pop's biggest stars. She changed what it meant to be a pop star. I think that's the historical argument here that separates Madonna from almost every other artist before, during, and after her heyday. It's not that she adapted to change, it's that she made creative self-invention a central part of the job. Speaking of central part of the job, here comes the fun part. My ranking of her 15 major albums. I was going to rank her songs too, but we don't have that much time, people. And for me to go through ranking the songs the way I've done for other artists, I felt exhausted even thinking about doing it. I don't know. There'd probably be way more. There might be 90 songs of hers that I'd have to rank. It's too much. So just albums here. You can bet this will not correspond to anyone else's rankings. Never does. I usually disagree, and this time around, it's more than usual. And a note on that here. I find there are, I want to say this because it happens all the time when I'm ranking albums, and I mentioned that I don't agree with other people. But why? Why are most best of lists, rankings of albums, faulty? I don't think they're just different from me. I think they're faulty. And here's why. Number one, peer pressure. Critics and others too often fall in line with conventional wisdom, naming an album the best or worst or among the top because other critics have historically said so. It's why many of these lists are disappointingly similar. Number two, too many non-music considerations. They focus too much on what was going on in the artist's life and or career and or what was happening in the music world at the time, and that colors their impressions of the album. Music should stand on its own and be judged that way, period. Number three, this may surprise you, too much focus on lyrics. Of course lyrics are key, but as I've always said, if the music doesn't work, then who cares if the lyrics are amazing? Write a poem. It's why I review the way I do. Granted, some songs do grow on you the more you connect with the lyrics. Good songs do that, but there has to be a clear sonic entry point. Musically speaking, I don't need to know what or who a song refers to enjoy it. It is enhanced by those things, by knowing that, by diving into the lyrics. But that, to me, does not mean that the music has to be good on its own from the beginning. Keep in mind, by the way, back to my rankings, I approximated this. Some of these albums were so close to each other. Truly, there are 0 bad albums in her catalog, and I think 15 very good albums. All of them, with maybe 2/3 of them great albums, and probably half stellar. Half of those 2/3, maybe, so 1/3, I don't know. I would say half of her albums is stellar. Agree or disagree, here's how I rank them. Number 15, Rebel Heart. This was a worthwhile exploration, but it's the first album where I occasionally hear Madonna trying a little too hard to keep up rather than staying ahead. Number 14, Madam X. An admirable late career reinvention full of ideas and different things, even if the songs don't pull me back as often as her best work. Don't count this as a bad album just because I put it at 14. Number 13, Bedtime Stories. Beautifully produced, deeply confident, but just a little too mellow to fully grab me. Number 2, packed with classics, but as a complete album, it doesn't quite excite me as much as many of the records that followed. Number 11, Like a Virgin contains some of the greatest pop singles ever, though the album itself isn't quite as consistently strong as those singles. And in fact, I think Like a Virgin is 12 and True Blue is 11. So make that correction in your heads. Number 10, Confessions 2, a remarkably vibrant summary of everything she's learned over 4 decades, proving she still has something to say and does it well, especially musically. And again, just because it's 10 doesn't mean it's not a great album. 9, Hard Candy, far better than given credit for, modern, energetic, and filled with underrated deep cuts. Number 8, Ray of Light, stunning artistic rebirth whose atmosphere and production are every bit as impressive as its legendary reputation. 7, Like a Prayer, the album where Madonna became an undeniable artistic force, marrying ambition with some of her strongest songwriting. Number 6, Music. The moment she perfected the electronic reinvention she began with Ray of Light, playful, adventurous, weighty, and consistently rewarding. Number 5, Confessions on a Dance Floor, an almost non-stop dance record whose production is so addictive it barely gives you time to breathe. Number 4, here's where things are going to surprise you. Number 4, for me, MDNA. Its reputation had me expecting much less, but it's a blast from start to finish that deserves far more respect than it gets, and a second listen, people. Number 3, Erotica. Yeah, I said it. Her first fully realized album statement. Bold, immersive, and one of the richest listening experiences in her catalog. Number 2, Hate Me Now, American Life. unfairly dismissed in its day. It is now one of her most adventurous, forward-thinking, and cohesive albums as far as I'm concerned. And number one, it's a heart thing, Madonna, the original album. It captures everything I loved most about her and what made me fall in love with her. Post-punk energy, irresistible pop instincts, a great voice, a sound I wish she continued exploring even more than through Like a Virgin, and wish she would bring back to some degree because of the minimalism of it. And it's an almost perfect collection of songs. Yes, I know the list is controversial, as is appropriate for Madonna. As always, my favorite albums may not have my favorite songs because songs are different from albums. You know, yes, Madonna has some of my favorite songs on it, that album in particular. American Life, I love many of the songs, but I don't know if I would have ranked them as high as the album itself. And again, I can't rank my favorite songs, too many. It takes too much time, but it's clear that her music has at times been very important to me, and I think more important than I even realized. The kind of music Madonna did in the 80s and some of her actual specific songs had a huge impact on me. That music found ways to incorporate lots of influences while still being both pop and dance, and I love artists who can do that. Speaking of their impact on me, the featured song. This is a fun and kind of wormy one for a few reasons. Not only is the instrumental version of this featured song the theme song to Music Is Not a Genre's Podfast, I also actually featured a live vocal version of this in that previous episode I did years ago where I did a spotlight of Madonna paired with Into the Groove. So, and I performed both of them live. So, of course, it's the perfect pick. It's called You Make Me Wanna. And it's a very cool sounding version, cool meaning, you know, laid back, of that pop rock dance aesthetic with a bit of maybe brand new heavies thrown in. It is from the Rec album Syncope for the Weird. And it's also featured on RECcollection, the Best of Rec 2007 to 2020. It kind of sounds a little like the song Vogue mixed with Into the Groove, again mixed with maybe brand new heavies, which I again paired it with Into the Groove, mixed with a bunch of non-Madonna stuff and my other influences. It's post-disco dance music. In the song, the protagonist is mourning his decision to leave his love. That person he's still hung up on makes him want to think more about his life and decisions and to probably get back together. As always, you can stream it at nickdamadio.com/music, wherever you stream music, or click the more direct link that I've always put in the episode text. And of course, stay tuned in a sec to hear it, but please click the link too. Streams matter, even though they don't matter that much. Questions. Are you a Madonna fan? Do you have favorite era's album songs? Did you follow her through her entire career? When did you lose touch with her? Did you regain touch at a certain point? Or were there fallow periods for you, in particular as a listener, and then she re-grabbed you? Do you think she deserves to be mentioned among the all-time greatest music makers ever? I want to know your answers to these and all other questions because, as always, my objectives here are music, conversation, and connection. Thank you for hanging with me for this ultra-mega episode of Madonna, and I will talk to you next week.
Sometimes when I'm alone I get a little crazy and I need to reach out, cause my mind, you know, it goes to places it shouldn't go. Cause you know you make me wanna think about my life. 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 Don't take it all away. No, no, no. Don't take it all away. No, 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 no. think about it, think about it, yeah. You make me wanna be with you again. Where did I go wrong? You make me wanna be with